And we are back, and we just finished watching 1988's Heathers, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour and 43 minutes. We caught this on Prime, but it's also playing on AMC Plus, Plex, PlutoTV, and the Starz app, I guess, and Roku and Tubi, and to buy rent on Prime. This is the story of the Heathers and Veronica, a trio of girls named Heather who are part of this popular clique. And their main leader, I guess, Heather Chandler, has invited this girl, Veronica, to be part of the group. And as much as she wants to be different, I'm assuming she's also a follower because she turns her back on her friend Betty to be part of the popular crowd. So she's no better than the Heathers.
She hates herself.
She does.
She hates herself for what she's become. She's part of this group. They are, like you said, the popular girls. And
Heather Chandler, the leader, is a mean old bag.
In typical popular girl fashion in these type of movies, the leader is a girl who is so just nasty, even to her subordinate friends, that it makes you wonder what the hell's going on, that these people just don't slap the crap out of her.
Yeah. This was directed by Michael Lehmann with writing credits to Daniel Waters. I think you said it best that this movie lives best in nostalgia.
Yes. I remember being younger and actually enjoying this film.
Same.
And now watching it again through adult eyes and after decades
of living.
It's not really that great a movie. It's funny reading like reviews and commentary about it from back then, and it's just like cutting satire. It takes a chainsaw to the high school social structure.
Yeah.
All these like ridiculous hyperbolic reviews, and when you look at it now, it's just like this is kind of not that good. I mean, Mean Girls did it better.
Yes.
Mean Girls did it so much better.
Yes, I was going to say, and that movie is also not new. It's been a couple of decades at this point, but
like
it's
at least a decade after. Mean Girls was it the 90s or the early 2000s?
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
So, no, but I'm saying it's like at least 20 years old at this point, and yet that movie still...
It's the writing on that one is way smarter. It's funnier. I understand they're going for dark humor, but I don't know. Maybe that just became cliched or just maybe out of touch. I mean, you think about a lot has happened in the world.
Sure.
I mean, there's scenes in here that would not be possible in this day and age. And I think maybe that's part of it, because when we were young, it was sort of like, teach those assholes a lesson.
Right.
And now you think about in the real world, there have been cases where the outcast taught those assholes a lesson, and it was horrific. It's not anything to laugh at. Lives are destroyed.
Right.
Hell, society is irreparably damaged by this sort of thing. And back in the 80s, it was so far-fetched for something like this to happen. It was fantasy. This is fantasy.
Well, this is definitely before school shootings became a thing. Yeah. And JD, played by Christian Slater, is the prototype to school shooters.
Exactly.
From the way
he's
he
wearing
acts,
the trench
the way
coat,
he dresses, everything. Yeah. So to having this manifesto of we're going to, by our global united suicide here, we're going to prove to the world that we're special.
Yeah. It does not age well.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I too
just like an
saw
old
this.
jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah, I saw this in the theater and enjoyed it immensely. And watching it now,
I think it just spoke to you when you were younger, because like I said, when you're young and you're in high school, there are those asshole kids. And you do think, oh man, it would be nice if they received some kind of comeuppance. And here's this film that's sort of like, I'm JD, I'm Winona Ryder, I'm the outcast.
Right.
And I don't know, this maybe.
But it was weird because Veronica wasn't any better than anyone else. I mean, she acted...
there's that. But back to my point, what I was getting at is maybe it just doesn't offer the catharsis that it did to a young person. And I don't think this sort of film will ever be able to do that again.
Right. Because the
especially in this way with this level of dark humor, because it's about murder and suicide and mass murder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's mean.
I mean, I can get past that a bit because, yeah, the characters are mean. But when you're young, you just don't have that worldview. You don't have the past that we have now.
Sure.
So it's just different. So I could clearly see why it resonated with us far differently than it does today.
I wonder if our kids would take to this film. I don't know. They don't have those sensibilities, though.
Yeah, it really is a lot different now than it was back then.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, aside from that, once we get past like that the fact that you can't really have this sort of subject matter treated in this dark way and still have it be amusing, you just look at it and the writing's just not really that great.
It's not American fiction.
It's not American fiction.
Which is satire done brilliantly.
Or it's not even Mean Girls.
It's not even Mean Girls,
It's just not as interesting or biting. And then you look sort of like at the performances. I mean, Winona Ryder is just pretty wooden in this whole thing. And Christian Slater is just, I'm Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
He really is just
he leans into well, this is the teenager. First film that he does that, right?
Yeah. I mean, he carried that for many films.
Yeah, that other where he's the pirate DJ. What was that?
Oh, Pump Up the Volume.
Pump Up the Volume.
Yeah. Harry Hard-On.
Something like that, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he is really just doing an impersonation of Jack Nicholson being a psychotic teenager.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess maybe, like I said, back then it resonated with us because it was a different time. We were different people.
Sure.
Now it doesn't. It really doesn't.
It felt dated.
At best, it just feels like a dated nostalgia piece. At worst, it feels like kind of an insult to all the horror that's happened.
Yeah.
Sort of like, oh, you're kind of belittling mass school shootings.
Teen suicide.
And because that has become a lot worse.
Sure.
And with the advent of social media.
Yeah.
So, this is kind of a downer. Yeah. It's like you remember this film from your youth and you're like, oh, yeah, that was a good time. And then you look back at it and you're like, Jesus Christ, what was wrong with us?
Yeah, it's sort of disappointing. It wasn't like...
It's just some things just cannot age well, especially, I guess, if you're trying to be like this, where you're trying to be edgy and cool.
Yeah, I just don't... I don't know. Like, I remember liking it and thinking it was funny as a young person, and watching it now, I'm just like, ugh, icky.
Well, there's no real good lines. No. I mean, there's nothing.
And no one's likable either.
Yeah, there's not a single likable character in this movie. Nobody says anything witty,
profound or interesting.
There is no real... There's no amazing jokes.
No, and this is a very small scene. The only scene that I truly, truly liked was the scene where she has Betty come over to play. But then that's cut short.
You know what? I didn't like that either.
Really? Why?
Because it's hollow. Everything she does afterwards is completely hollow.
Why did you think that scene was hollow?
It's like one-dimensional. It's like, okay, now I'm going to be good. Mm-hmm. What did you do to earn this turnaround?
Right.
You just realized, I shouldn't have killed that guy. I shouldn't have shot that kid, or I shouldn't have gone along with JD this whole time.
Yeah.
And it's suddenly just like, well, I dumped him. Now I can go about being a good person. And now I'm going to be nice to Betty. Oh, and then at the very end, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to be nice to Large Marge, or whatever her name was. It just rang so freaking hollow. It's like she takes the headband from Shannen Doherty and puts it on herself, and it's like, I'm in charge now, and I'm going to be nice to the nerds.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It's extremely superficial. This is a very... That's another thing about this film. It's extremely superficial.
I agree.
Every character is basically just supposed to be an
Parody.
archetype caricature parody of some sort of thing from high school. And there's really not any depth. I mean, I guess maybe they're trying to go for that with her little diatribes with wearing her monocle as she writes in her diary.
She's whimsical.
Yeah, it's like even that is like she has to put on some sort of air. Seriously, who is she doing that for?
Yeah.
There's nobody else in the room. Why are you doing a bit like that?
Yeah. Well, the reason I liked that scene was because it felt authentic, and it felt like not so much the Veronica character, but Betty felt very genuine and honest and earnest, and she was doing most of the talking in that sequence. And
The Betty character?
Yeah. But then when the other two Heathers show up, she quickly goes away.
Yeah, she scurries off.
And it was interesting because Veronica never said, "Oh, no, you should stay."
No,
because it's like if you're trying to be right, if you're trying to be like this different person now, this inclusive, this person that embraces people. And I think she said something in the beginning where she was like, "I just want this place to be kind. I want the high school experience to be kind." And it's like, well, what are you doing to make it kind? You're murdering people and getting away with it?
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. It was just weird.
It definitely
doesn't land.
It definitely does not hold weight when looked at under more scrutinizing eyes.
Yeah.
This, I guess maybe you could possibly find some enjoyment out of this if you just, I guess, love 80s dark humor and you don't really care about any kind of depth or character evolution.
Like, I don't think you and I laughed at all.
I'm talking about when we were younger. We thought this was funny.
Yeah, I guess. But I'm trying to remember, what did I think was so funny about it?
I am racking my mind trying to think that too. Yeah. I just remember as a young man enjoying this movie.
Yes, no, same.
And
I liked it a lot.
I can't tell you for the life of me why. And I just watched it.
Yeah.
And I saw all the bits. It didn't strike any memory in my mind of, oh yeah, I remember me and my friends laughed so hard at that one scene.
Right.
No, it never did. And even back then, when I saw it, I was just like, oh, he's trying to be Jack Nicholson.
Right.
Because we all saw The Shining by that point.
Yeah. Well, I also think it's interesting because this is, rightly so, I guess, a dark comedy, right? But it's interesting, the juxtaposition, because it's very colorful. And I think at one point I turned to you and I was like, this feels like a Tim Burton movie. Like it has the aesthetic of a Tim Burton movie.
Well, Tim Burton, Beetlejuice came out the year before this.
Right. And a lot of the players in that, well, not a lot, but a few of the players in that are in this. So it
was definitely, you could see an influence.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially that dream funeral for, was it Shannen Doherty?
Yeah, Heather Duke.
Yeah, when you see the first Heather, and she's basically, Tim Burton may have well dressed her.
Right.
She has like the crazy
hair
and the stripes.
Yeah.
Striped suit. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That was definitely right out of Beetlejuice.
Yeah. And Winona Ryder is in Beetlejuice.
And Winona Ryder's there too, yeah. But yeah, she was it felt like she was just like somebody was holding cue cards for her throughout this movie.
Yeah, she didn't seem like she was invested in it. She's got more depth and dimensions in like Stranger Things.
Yeah. Well, she's an adult. Mm-hmm. In this one she's like 16 or something or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's funny because you read the stories about this and she begged hard for this part, and I don't know why so you could showcase the fact that you didn't want to act in this one.
Well, I'm sure she thought she was doing something with it. Maybe she was like, I'm going to be the disaffected youth or whatever.
She was definitely like
going for
pouring it on that. Oh, yeah. I'm going to write in my journal now.
What is it? My teen angst has a body count. I remember that line.
Yeah, something like that.
I think the thing that, talking about superficiality, I think the thing that impressed me a lot as a young person was the clothing. As someone who wanted to be a fashion designer in a previous life, I think even now I enjoyed the costuming. Whoever did that did a magnificent job. It's very representative of the styles, the hairstyles, the clothing. A lot of that harkens back to being in that time frame in the late 80s. So that was like a nice little...
It was filmed in the late 80s.
Right. No. But that's what I mean. Like watching it now.
Oh. Lots of shoulder pads.
Lots of bold prints and colors. And again, this is a dark comedy, but the color palette sort of works against that in a way. It's almost like a candy shop.
The only ones that are really colorful are the Heathers.
Fair.
Everybody
they're
else
the focus of the attention. They are the popular girls in the school.
Yeah, I mean, everybody else is pretty much just dressed in normal drab clothing. And
sure.
It's not like though the backgrounds or anything are, popping with Technicolor glow or anything.
Fair, but it's funny, like watching it, I got shades of Beetlejuice and Tim Burton, even David Lynch and like Blue Velvet. Like it had this sort of quality or palette that very much reminded me of these other films. And I think it's interesting that you're making this film about teenagers and coming of age and then kind of turning that on its head in a more dramatic or even over the top way by introducing this element of like this young man who's basically a murderer and how he recruits his unwitting girlfriend into also this plan of mass extermination. And then at the end, I wondered...
Well, the mass extermination thing she wasn't involved with it at all.
Wasn't, but he wanted her to be.
She was completely involved in the two football guys.
Death. Right.
Yeah. Especially at that particular point when she kills the second one.
Right.
Because initially it's sort of like, oh, it's only tranquilizers. But by the time she kills that dude, she knows it's not a tranquilizer.
Right. Because he even says, like, you were into this, whether you want to admit it to yourself or not.
Yeah. Motives are muddied. Morality is muddied.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, it felt like, so she's basically getting away with murder.
Yeah. She gets away with murder at the end of the movie.
So...
There's no comeuppance.
No, and
but
it felt like...
She got a little soot on her face.
Yeah, and it felt like adults were just portrayed almost like Disney Channel type stuff. They're idiots.
Yes,
they're so buffoons. Yeah. Her standard line to her father was what? Because you're an idiot.
Because you're an idiot. In fact, the first two interactions with her parents are almost word for word the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you like the pate? It's good. The father says something stupid. Why am I doing this? Because you're an idiot.
The mother says, "You too."
And then I better motor.
Yeah, if I want to make this funeral.
If I want to make the party or the funeral.
Right.
It was strange, and it was filmed the same way with that head on almost. I guess Tim Burton-esque or in a more modern sense, a Wes Anderson style. Just here's the camera.
Well, this came out before Wes Anderson.
Yeah,
so,
I know. Yeah,
so he might have been influenced by these movies. It's interesting because this was not a success. This was critically acclaimed, but box office failure. It cost $3 million to make and only made a little over $1 million. However, it has seen, I guess.
Oh, it had I mean, definitely a huge cult following. And it had a musical. It had a TV show based on it.
Apparently, yeah, which I didn't know about. But
and I know I could swear that they were talking about sequels at some point. They got to sequelize everything.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened.
Yeah. Who's to say it still won't?
Although,
I think the major characters are still alive. So
no, but sort of to your point.
Or the major actors, I mean.
Fair, but to your point, the world is different now. I don't think that you could sell this. The world's
extremely different, yeah.
Especially after 9/11 and the advent of just perennial school shootings. So I think that would be a hard sell. So
yeah, and bullying and suicide. Yeah, I don't know how you could craft this into even a dark comedy.
Yeah. I agree. Tina Fey's Mean Girls does this way better.
Mean Girls does it way better and without any actual murder.
Right. There's implied murder.
Implied, but no.
Regina George.
No actual
murder.
But
no actual murder.
Yeah.
I feel like there's nothing else to say here.
Yeah, not really. It definitely does not
live up to
your
hype.
memories. It belongs in your nostalgia box there.
Yeah.
Recesses your mind. If you want to keep having fond memories of Heathers, don't watch it again.
Yeah.
Because if you do watch it now,
some of it's icky.
If you've grown it all since the 80s, you're gonna be disappointed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I hope you have.
If you still have that 80s mentality, who knows? Maybe you're wearing your high school football varsity jacket, and that was the peak of your life. That's right.
4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns in a single game. You'll probably still enjoy it.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like even kids today, I don't think would like this film.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
It is a hard sell. It is a movie that lives in nostalgia.
It's just not funny.
It's not funny. It's not funny.
I mean, I like dark comedy, but it's just not funny anymore.
Yeah.
Or if it ever was.
It's kind of interesting. I mean, I know that we've had this conversation before, and I'm sure I'm going to screw up the example, but we saw Harold and Maude not too long ago. That's a film from the 70s, and yet that film I feel like still holds up. The story,
Harold and
jokes.
Maude is still a good film. It still has some hilarious lines in it. I still remember that priest. Your withered flesh commingling.
So how is it that something like that, I guess, again, it is the power of the word, right? There is magic in, it's not easy to write a good screenplay that's going to have longevity. It's amazing to me when you see movies, especially older films, will use, again, not in the same genre, but something like Double Indemnity, where I could watch that 20 years from now and still love it to pieces because the writing in that is just so sharp and amazing. And then you have something like this that's come out years later and just isn't impressive.
There's always going to be stuff that's topical and stuff that's evergreen that'll just be funny forever. Look at the Man Who Came to Dinner.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Film came out so
40s,
long ago.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Amazing.
you watch a film and basically people were like still fighting in World War II, I think.
Yeah.
And you watch that today, it's still funny, and that has a mean, biting character in it who's just hilarious.
Yeah.
The situation is ridiculous and hilarious, and everything just keeps escalating, and everything is tight. Everything is like when one thing ends, another thing weaves in.
Yeah.
Beautifully done. It was a product of the time. It is absolutely a product of the time. And once that time ended, it just became dingy and dusty and flat. Yeah. It's like a bottle of soda.
It's funny because this is sort of like the this was filmed in 88, came out in 89. So we're getting to the end of the decade. This is definitely the anti-John Hughes formula of teenage storytelling.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
So
John Hughes definitely was a bit more sentimental, and obviously there wasn't as much killing.
But there were other issues about popularity and bullying and stuff like that transcend those types of films. Yeah. But it's interesting.
Most of his stuff has aged
a little bit
fairly well.
Not everything. Weird Science.
Not everything, but Weird Science is absolute garbage. But I mean, there'll be scenes in some of his stuff that may not have aged well. Mm-hmm. But the overall part of the story, it's good. Like I still enjoy Some Kind of Wonderful.
I still enjoy Some Kind of. I like The Breakfast Club.
The Breakfast Club
was good. I liked Pretty in Pink, but I understand that Ducky's a stalker.
You know what? I like Pretty in Pink too, but yeah, Ducky has not aged well.
No,
that character has absolutely not aged well.
No.
Looking back, he is a stalker weirdo, and
16 Candles problematic.
There's several things in that, yeah. But
several.
But even still, it's not to the point where I'm just like, oh God, you're belittling tragedy.
Yeah. This was. I gotta be honest. I was happy when it ended.
Me too.
Yeah.
There was a point when I was watching it where I was kind of like, when will this end?
Yeah, same. And it's not a long movie, and it still was like, this has been a chore to sit through.
Oh yeah, this was like another this was like another beating to the inner child of my mind.
Well, it's funny because we're going to pair this with Bottoms, which I think is a superior film to this, even though that's also over the top and ridiculous.
It's over the top ridiculous,
in parts, but
and I'll bet in 50 years, people will be like, if they even talk about Bottoms, they'll be like, this is terrible.
I feel like
it may age a little bit better, but then at the end of the day, I mean, who the hell knows? Maybe in 30 years there'll be a football massacre or something, and they'll be like, this is belittling that tragedy. But whatever. Yeah. So
1 to 10, what are you gonna give it?
This is hard because it's like the young 80s me would have given this a much higher score. But
I'm giving it a 6.
I can't give it a 6 because it's, in my mind, it's just not a good film anymore. I'd give it a 4.
Wow.
Because if 5 is average, this is not an average movie. This is literally
a terrible
no
movie.
Longer a good movie.
Yeah.
It's kept like milk. It just
curdled.
Yeah.
You know what? You're right. I mean, I was giving it a 6 for the nostalgia, for the fashions and stuff like that. But you know what? You're right. Actually, it deserves a 4.
Yeah,
it does. It's
not horrible, but
it's not good.
It's not good. Yeah. It's just not good
anymore. It's not good. Yeah. I mean, the only thing that I enjoyed on this watch were the clothes. That's it.
I couldn't care less about the clothes, so I really didn't enjoy anything. I didn't find any of the humor interesting or engaging. There isn't a single memorable line in the entire movie.
There's not a likable character.
There's not a likable character in the entire movie. Her parents suck. She sucks. JD sucks. The Heathers suck. Everybody sucks.
Even the school faculty,
the school faculty
was terrible.
They're all terrible people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody.
JD's dad's he's terrible.
Yeah. The other students. Yeah, there's not a single likable character in the entire movie.
Yeah, yeah. It was
you can't even say that Betty's a likable character. Because Betty's basically just a prop.
Yeah.
She was a prop for a scene that Veronica's turning a leaf.
Right.
And it doesn't really doesn't even pay off because as soon as the Heathers show up, she's like, all right, bye.
Yeah.
Same thing with the heavy girl, Martha.
Yeah. And also that scene at the end where she's like, oh, there's a new sheriff, and it's like, what does that even mean?
What is it? It just felt like a tacked on line.
Yeah.
That was just meaningless. And then even more pathetic, she's walking down the hall with Martha, and Martha's in her mobility scooter because she's all crippled now.
Yeah.
And Martha just does a little circle around her like an
old
cartoon. Yeah, the old cartoon where you have like the big dog and then the little dog just running circles around him like, oh, geez, Mike, you're the best.
Yeah.
That was just pathetic.
Yeah, you're right. It's a 4.
Jesus. All right.
Yeah, the more we think about it.
Yeah.
I know, like maybe it's a 2. Yeah. Okay, yeah, let's wrap it up because this is dying a quick death, this movie. Yeah, don't watch it.
No.
Please
if you love this movie, don't watch it again.
Yeah.
If you feel like tempting or testing yourself to see if maybe you've grown since the 80s, go ahead, give it a watch. You will be in for a shock.
Yeah, you'll be amazed.
Yeah.
At how much you don't like this.
Yeah.
All right. And that's it from us. Stay away from Heathers. Yeah. Not good. And that's it from us. And we will bid you all a
good night.
Good night.